Hi, welcome to my video on Hancock's 2011 study done on the language of psychopaths. Language communicates directly an individual's thoughts to another person. There is a relationship between language and thought, which has been the subject of much debate amongst philosophers and psychologists. And there are four main viewpoints about language and thought. The first is that thought is dependent on or caused by language, i.e. the way that you think is affected by the language that you talk and the way that you speak. The second is that language is dependent upon and reflects our thoughts. And so the thoughts that you have can be explained by the language that you use. Excuse me. The third is that thought and language are initially quite separate activities, i.e. the way that you think and the way that you talk are completely different. And then the last one is that thought and language are one and the same. So have a think about the way that you think about particular topics or things that have happened to you or things that have happened during the day. Do you think in the same way that you talk? Would you describe it to yourself, or would you simply do you have deconstructed thoughts? So you might sort of think about it in a fragmented way rather than thinking, oh well, this morning this is what happened and this is where I went and this is what time I did this and blah, and so on and so forth. So Hancock's study is all about psychopaths. What is a psychopath? We've all heard about psychopaths. It's generally something that we hear about in the media because it's one of the more exciting aspects of psychology. A psychopath is defined as a person with an antisocial personality disorder manifested in aggressive, perverted, criminal or amoral behaviour without empathy or remorse. It's important to note that not all psychopaths are murderers, okay? And not all murderers are psychopaths. So there had quite a few different studies on psychopaths, and that's who Hancock's research is based upon. And he describes psychopaths as arrogant, callous, dominant, superficial and manipulative. Can you think of anybody that you know who's like that? They're short-tempered, unable to form strong emotional relationships and are lacking in empathy, guilt or remorse. And therefore these personality traits lead to socially deviant lifestyles typified by irresponsible, impulsive behaviour. Basically, they don't care about other people, they only care about themselves. They can't put themselves into other people's shoes and imagine how they might be thinking or feeling. Or if they can, they simply don't care about that. Hare believes that psychopathy is caused by so he's looked into different studies of psychophysiology, neurology and behaviour, and he's found that psychopaths exhibit a wholly selfish orientation and profound emotional deficit. So he believes that psychopathy is caused by an emotional deficit, which could be from the way that they've been brought up, the way they've been taught, what their parents are like, etc. Rain et al. 2003 and 2004 and Oliveira Suez et al. In 2008 have both found that psychopaths' diminished capacity, sorry I can't talk today guys, diminished capacity for neural sensibility appears to have biological underpinnings, which basically means that psychopathy is caused by your brain structure or brain chemistry. Okay, so this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need to know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs are because Hancock uses them and explains psychopaths' thought processes and motivation through the hierarchy of needs. So Maslow basically suggests that the hierarchy of needs, until you reach all of these needs, you cannot become self-actualized. Self-actualization is an idea of reaching your full potential and being the best person you can be. But you can't do that until you've got good self-esteem. You've got love and belonging, so you've got family and friendships. You're safe, so you've got a place to live and be safe and not be thinking about being attacked or anything like that. And then your physiological needs are met, so you've slept, you've eaten, you've drank enough water, etc. So, Hancock in 2011 wanted to test how psychopaths and non-psychopaths describe their crime. And the theory is that psychopaths have a different thought process, and therefore they talk about their crimes differently. So the speech is analysed for an instrumental worldview, unique drives, socio-emotional needs, and an ability to experience emotion. The sample is comprised of 52 psychopaths and non-psychopaths. We've got 38 non-psychopaths and 14 psychopaths. They're all male murderers incarcerated in a jail in Canada who've admitted their crime and volunteered to take part in the study. 16% of convictions were for first-degree murder, 64% of convictions were for second-degree murder, and 20% were for manslaughter. There's no difference between the type of crime done and psychopathy versus the control. So psychopaths are more likely to commit manslaughter, or the control are more likely to commit first-degree murder. The mean age of them at this time is 28.9 years, which is pretty much exactly the age I am at now. The two groups did not differ on age or the amount of time since the homicide was committed. So the way that they measured psychopathy is quite a fairly well-known way of measuring psychopathy. If you are going to be tested for psychopathy, this is the way that you would do it, and it's called the PCLR, and it's a psychopathy checklist revised edition. So basically it's the psychopathy checklist which has been updated, and it's the most extensively used approach to assessing psychopathy in forensic samples for the past 20 years, and it was developed by Hare, who was that psychologist we talked about earlier. Psychopathy is measured by the PCLR, and it's characterised by a score, and you get a maximum score of 40, and the cut-off point for psychopathy is 30 or above. If you're interested and you want to see what score you would get, we're going to have a go at this in class next week. Okay, so at the beginning of the interview, the purpose of the study is to examine the manner in which the homicide offenders recall their offence, and the procedure is explained to them verbally. They get audio taped and they're asked to describe their offence in as much detail as possible. The interviewers consist of 2 psychology graduate students, 1 research assistant, all of whom are blind to the scores of the offenders. Interview lasts for about 25 minutes. It's transcribed with particular attention looked at how many times they say and included in the transcription. You can have a go at doing it with me in this video if you want. The transcripts were subsequently checked to ensure that spelling errors were corrected and blah blah blah. All interview comments deleted, etc, etc. So, Hancock's results. There's no significant differences in the average number of words produced by psychopaths and controls, i.e. they don't talk any more than the control group, they don't talk any less than the control group. Psychopaths are more likely to describe cause and effect relationships when describing their murder, using words such as because, since, as, and, so, that. So basically they're saying that they had to commit the crime because this happened. That person has annoyed me, so therefore I had to do this to them. Psychopaths use approximately twice as many words related to basic physiological needs, including eating, drinking, and money when describing their murder than controls. So that links back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of them being focused on their physiological needs. They're not interested in self-esteem, they're not interested in love and belonging, they are interested in basic needs such as money and food. In contrast, the controls use significantly more language related to social needs. So the control group talked about their family, their religion and spirituality a lot more than the psychopaths did. And psychopathic language was significantly less fluent than controls. The speech of the psychopath contained 33% more disfluencies, e.g. saying and all the time. A little bit like me when I'm filming these videos. So you can pause the video and have a look at Hancock's results in relation to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can see there is a much higher frequency of certain aspects, such as physiological and safety needs. If you add them all up together, you will find that the psychopaths are talk about it a lot more. And you can see social needs, the family and religion for the controls is much, much higher. Okay. And then Hancock's conclusions. He came to the conclusion that psychopaths are more likely to view their crimes as a logical outcome. They're more likely to focus on their basic physiological needs. They're overall less emotional and less positive than the control group. And they're more emotionally detached. Overall, these findings on speech begin to open the world into the mind of the psychopath, allowing us to infer that the psychopath's worldview is fundamentally different from the rest of the human species. And that's the end of my video. So if you've got any questions, please let me know by bringing them into class. And I hope that this has cleared up any questions you've got about Hancock. Thank you very much.